If you've been shopping for a stainless steel countertop gravity water filter, you've probably seen the new Culligan MaxClear filters, and you've probably seen the big marketing hook: microplastics, lead, and total PFAS in a gravity filter with legit third-party certifications behind it. So I did what I always do: I set it up, ran it like a normal person would at home, and sent before and after water samples to a certified lab to see how it performed in the real world. Overall, there was some strong performance here, but there were a couple things that surprised me after filtration, and I'm excited to show you my lab results, so let's jump right in. The Culligan MaxClear is a stainless steel gravity filter that comes in two sizes: the 2.25 gallon Scout and the 3-gallon Venture. These follow the classic stainless steel gravity filter design. The upper chamber holds unfiltered water, gravity pulls it through the filter elements, and the filtered water collects in the bottom chamber. No plumbing, no electricity, no permanent install. And a quick bit of industry context here: Culligan actually acquired the Pro One brand, and these stainless steel gravity systems are essentially Culligan's relaunch of those Pro One gravity products. So if you're familiar with the gravity filter world and some of this looks familiar, that's why. Gravity systems are popular for a few reasons. They're simple, they're portable, and they work great for renters, off-grid situations, emergency preparedness, and anyone who just doesn't want to mess with their plumbing or use electricity to filter their water. Now, for this review, I tested the MaxClear Venture 3-gallon size system. And I want to be super clear about the context because this was just one round of testing with one water source, not an extended life cycle study. That's why I always put a lot of emphasis on third-party certifications, because certifications fill the gap for contaminants that may not be present in my tap water that I use for testing. Let's talk money, because with gravity filters, the cost of the unit is only half the story. Up front, the 2.25 gallon Scout system starts at $229.99, and the 3-gallon Venture starts at $274.99. That's the lowest price for each and includes just one filter. If you want more filters to increase the flow rate, it'll cost more based on how many you choose. But we also have to consider what it takes to keep the thing running long term. At the time of recording, Culligan's MaxClear replacement filters cost $78.99 per filter, with a rated capacity of 50 gallons each. That works out to $1.58 per gallon if you're buying just one filter at a time, which is the most expensive replacement filter cost out of all the water filters I've tested so far. They do offer discounts if you buy more filters. For example, if you buy the largest 6-pack of filters, each one costs $60, lowering the ongoing cost to $120 a gallon, which is still expensive. Now, the big question is, if you're paying a premium for replacement filters, what are you getting to justify the cost? So here are the key features that help the Culligan MaxClear stand out. First and most importantly, Culligan positions MaxClear as a gravity filter with serious third-party certifications. And from my research, this is the most comprehensively performance certified stainless steel gravity water filter that I've found so far. So that claim of unmatched certification isn't just marketing, it's actually true. That matters a lot because most of these stainless steel gravity systems make big claims, but don't have any official performance certifications to back them up. Next is the media used in the filter elements. Culligan highlights ceramic and carbon, and through additional digging and communication, it turns out there's also KDF media in there as well. Lastly, the setup of this one is refreshingly simple. No priming like some of the other gravity systems that make you question your life choices. You basically put it together, install the filters, run a few batches of water through, and dump them, and you're ready to go. So there are a few things I really do like about the Culligan MaxClear. From a performance standpoint, it did a lot of good things in my lab testing, especially for several metals and inorganic contaminants. And like I mentioned, currently, this is the most comprehensively performance certified stainless gravity filter I've found so far in my research. It's certified to NSF-ANSI 4253, 401, and 372, covering things like chlorine and chloramine, lead, total PFAS, a range of emerging contaminants, and microplastics reduction, plus lead-free materials. Setup was easy, and the overall build feels sturdy and well thought out, minimizing use of plastics. And Culligan backs the unit with an exceptionally strong warranty. Now, for the downsides, and first, it's slow. like really slow. Gravity systems are slow by nature, but this one was one of the slowest I've recorded so far. Second, at $1.58 per gallon, it's super expensive in terms of ongoing filter replacement cost. And third, a couple of surprise contaminants showed up post-filtration. So now let's get into what the lab found in our testing. For testing, I collected 2 samples, a baseline sample of my tap water before filtration and a post-filtration sample dispensed from the Culligan MaxClear system itself. Both samples were sent to TapScore for analysis. And to keep the before-after comparison as clean as possible, I followed their recommended sample collection best practices. First, I filled a clean bucket with the baseline water, mixed it thoroughly, and took the baseline sample from there. I then poured water from the bucket directly into the Culligan gravity filter. I also used a separate chlorine test strip to test chlorine content on site, since chlorine dissipates rapidly and isn't tested at the lab. In my baseline sample, the lab detected a range of things with potential health effects, things like nitrate, barium, copper, fluoride, sulfate, strontium, uranium, molybdenum, phosphorus, and more. The 2 most concerning were uranium and fluoride, which were both detected at levels above the most conservative human health focused guidelines called the HGL. Now for the good news, because the MaxClear did an excellent job with several contaminants. We saw reduction of multiple metals and inorganics to below the reporting limit, including copper, uranium, molybdenum, zinc, phosphorus, and fluoride. We also saw reductions in a few others, including barium, which was reduced by 97%, strontium dropped by nearly 53%, nitrate by 34%, and chloride, which barely moved by only about 2%. Now we get to the part that made me stop and reread the report. Post-filtration, a couple contaminants showed up that were not detected in my baseline sample, and others that were present actually increased. Specifically, sulfate increased from 8.5 to 70.1 ppm, a 724% increase. Magnesium increased 55% from 6.58 to 10.2 ppm. Manganese appeared at 0.0053 ppm, potassium at 1.92 ppm, and dichloromethane, also known as methylene chloride, showed up at 6.51 ppb, where it was absent in the unfiltered water. Yeah, I was not expecting that either, especially from a gravity system like this. The increases in minerals are a bit easier to explain and are likely coming from the filter's ceramic shell, as we've seen in our tests of similar filters like the British Berkey and original Pro 1. The bigger concern is, of course, the methylene chloride detection. And here's where it's important to be accurate and fair. As part of official NSF ANSI performance certifications, standards like 42, 53, and 401, products don't just get tested for contaminant reduction. They also undergo material safety extraction testing, where the product is evaluated to make sure it isn't leaching a long list of chemicals into the water. And my contact at the NSF confirmed something really specific and really important. Methylene chloride is one of the chemicals that every water filter is tested for during the extraction testing portion of certification for those performance standards. The Culligan MaxClear has multiple official performance certifications, including 42, 53, and 401, which means it passed extraction testing, including for methylene chloride. And yet it showed up in my post-filtration lab result, and I don't have a perfect explanation for that. What I can tell you is this: I tested 8 countertop systems at the same time using the same baseline bucket sample, and this was the only one where dichloromethane was detected. The filters were also relatively new when I tested them, so maybe it could have come from something like packaging materials or manufacturing exposure. But without additional follow-up testing, there's no way to tell for sure, and this is just one possible theory. Now let's run through how this system scored an 8.55 in my scoring system and what actually influenced each category. In the contaminant reduction category, it received an 8.88 out of 10, and one big reason it scored that high is because the MaxClear is actually certified for 100% of the contaminant reduction claims they're making. On top of that, it did a lot of good things in my lab testing with several metals and inorganics, but that score did take a meaningful hit because of the dichloromethane detection post-filtration, which obviously raises questions even with the certifications we discussed. In the filtration rate category, it received a 6.5 because I measured it at about 0.3 gallons per hour. Now, to be fair, gravity systems are slow by nature, especially when ceramic media is involved. And my scoring system is adjusted specifically for gravity filtration, but even within that category, this is one of the slowest compared to the other gravity systems I've tested. In the design category, it earned a perfect 10 out of 10, and that comes down to the build quality and materials. The unit and its components are high quality, it's mostly stainless steel, it uses minimal plastic, and it also benefits from material safety related certifications. In the setup category, it received an 8.5, and the actual setup of the unit took me right around 20 minutes, which is basically in line with most of the other better designed gravity systems. The big bonus here is that there's no filter priming required. You install the filters, stack the chambers, and you're good to go. It was much easier than systems like Berkey or Waterdrop, and pretty comparable to British Berkfeld in terms of how smooth the process was. That said, it does take a long time to filter and discard the first 3 initial water cycles, as indicated by the manual. In the maintenance category, it scored a 7.25. Cleaning is simple, the filters are easy to remove and reinstall, and you don't have to mess with priming. Where it loses points is that really expensive filter replacement cost of $1.58 per gallon. And finally, in the company policies category, it received an 8.8 out of 10. Culligan does a lot of things right here. Most importantly, they offer a 5-year warranty on the vessel and components, which is excellent for this category. But there are a couple of policy drawbacks that pulled the score down. One is that Culligan is very clear that there's no warranty on filter performance or service life because performance can vary depending on water conditions and how much water you run through it. They also offer free shipping in the continental US on orders over $99, which is solid. But the return policy language is pretty ambiguous. It basically says each return is treated uniquely, and because there's no clear guarantee of free returns within a specific time window, that's why the score isn't higher. All right, so who is this a great fit for, and who should probably skip it? If you want a stainless steel countertop gravity system with serious certifications, especially for microplastics, lead, and total PFAS, the Culligan MaxClear really stands out. It's the most comprehensively performance certified stainless gravity system I've not only personally tested, but come across in all of my research of these types of systems so far. The build quality is excellent, setup is easy, and in my lab results, it did a lot of things really well. Now, there are 2 practical reasons this could be a hard no for some people. First, it's slow. If you need larger volumes of filtered water fast, like for filling pots for cooking, or you've got a bigger household, the flow rate is going to be painful unless you're disciplined about keeping the top tank full. Second, it's expensive to run, and replacement filters have the highest cost per gallon I've seen. So if you're trying to keep long-term operating costs low, that's a real downside. And then there's the part that everyone's going to ask about, the dichloromethane detection in my post-filtration lab report. Here's how I'm looking at it. Normally, a result like that would make me say hold off until we know more. But the key context is that the Culligan MaxClear has multiple performance certifications, and those certifications require extraction testing for methylene chloride specifically. In other words, the certification process gives me confidence that the filter should not be leaching that compound under normal conditions. So my best guess is that this was a one-off, possibly related to new product packaging or handling, not the filter itself. Of course, without follow-up testing, I can't prove that, but given the certification context, I still feel comfortable recommending this system. So at the end of the day, if you want the most extensively performance certified stainless steel gravity filter I've tested, and you're okay with the trade-offs of slow flow and higher ongoing cost, the MaxClear is a solid choice. Now, if those trade-offs are deal breakers and you want a stainless steel gravity filter for sure, I'd recommend checking out the British Berkfeld with Ultra Stericyl filters. It's also certified, albeit less extensively, and offers much better value over time, so stick around and watch the next video coming up right now to see how it compares. Click or tap to keep watching.